A massive 3-year police operation has dealt a serious blow to the Comancheros gang across New Zealand. Nearly all of its members and associates are now facing criminal charges, with more than 40 people.
In one strike, New Zealand police have taken down the last senior Comanchero boss. A man accused of moving hundreds of kilos of meth and cocaine is now behind bars. Nearly 140 charges, 3 years of non-stop raids, a gang empire shaken to its core. But the real question is, what happens next to the underworld when the top falls? Background build-up. The Comanchero Motorcycle Club didn't start in New Zealand. It was born in Sydney, Australia, back in 1966. At first, it was just another outlaw motorcycle group. But by the 1980s, it was already violent and organized, known for its turf wars and bloody feuds with other gangs like the Bandidos. One of their shootouts, the infamous Milpera massacre, left 7 people dead, including a 14-year-old girl. That moment cemented their image, brutal, fearless, and built for crime. Years later, the gang expanded fast, first across Australia, then into parts of Southeast Asia. But their most aggressive growth came when they touched down in New Zealand around 2016. That's when everything escalated. The Comancheros didn't come to blend in. They came to dominate. In just a few years, their New Zealand chapter turned into a major operation. And they did it fast, with high-end cars, luxury houses, and a reputation for violence. But this wasn't just street-level stuff. Authorities say they were importing meth and cocaine, laundering millions, and even training members in military-style tactics. Police say they weren't just a gang, they were a full-blown criminal business. It took 3 years of secret tracking and surveillance to map out the gang's inner circle. Investigators followed the money, they followed the shipments, they watched the meetings, and bit by bit, they built a case strong enough to take down almost the entire leadership. The last domino? The man arrested just weeks ago in Auckland. The December 2024 Port of Tauranga heist. In early December 2024, a shocking daylight crime rocked New Zealand's busiest port. 2 men broke into a secured shipping container at the Port of Tauranga. In broad daylight, they cracked it open using tools and quickly loaded 5 suitcases into a car. Inside those bags, 200 kilograms of methamphetamine, the largest meth bust of its kind in New Zealand history. What they didn't know was that Customs had already flagged the container during a routine X-ray inspection. The contents raised alarms, and law enforcement had eyes on it. As the men tried to escape the scene, police moved fast. Road spikes were deployed on a toll road near the port, and the suspect's car was forced to stop. They ran, but not far. Officers captured both within minutes. What investigators found confirmed the scale of the crime. The 5 suitcases weren't just packed with drugs. They also held gloves and angle grinders, the tools used to rip into the container. This wasn't a sloppy grab and run. It was a carefully planned heist by people who knew exactly where the meth was and how to get to it. But that raised deeper concerns. How did they know which container to target? Who told them when to strike? Police pointed to an insider threat, suggesting someone inside the port or with access to shipping data may have helped coordinate the break-in. Over the next few days, 2 more suspects were arrested during raids across the region. 4 men were ultimately charged in connection with the heist. The charges included drug importation, burglary, and possession of criminal tools. The entire operation was part of a joint effort between New Zealand police and Customs, and it sent shockwaves through the country's law enforcement community. To understand just how serious this was, 200 kilograms of meth equals around 10 million street-level doses. The estimated street value? About $75 million. But the social damage meth brings goes far beyond dollars. Experts estimate this single shipment could have caused over $200 million in harm to families and communities. This bust wasn't a one-off. It exposed something deeper. Organized criminal groups exploiting weaknesses in port security. While ports are secured with cameras and fences, drug syndicates often rely on corrupt insiders, weak checkpoints, or simple gaps in communication. In this case, the fact that the burglars struck the exact right container before it was officially intercepted suggests planning and precision far beyond guesswork. Police described the event as a major disruption to New Zealand's meth supply. In regions like the Bay of Plenty, where meth has already taken a heavy toll, cutting off that pipeline was a significant win. But officers made it clear, one bust doesn't solve everything. They're now focused on locking down the port, finding any insiders, and preventing this kind of breach from happening again. Officials also warned that New Zealand has become a high-value target for drug trafficking networks. With a relatively small population and high street prices for meth and cocaine, it's a prime market for smugglers. Hiding drugs in shipping containers full of legal goods has become one of the most common methods used by these groups. That's why, in this case, customs early detection through X-ray screening was so crucial. It gave police just enough time to prepare, track the movement, and catch the criminals in action. This wasn't just a big bust, it was a wake-up call. If organized crime can reach this deep into one of New Zealand's most secure trade hubs, how many other shipments might have slipped through before? How many more insiders are out there? The Tauranga heist wasn't just about drugs. It was about control, intelligence, and the growing sophistication of criminal networks operating in plain sight. 3-year operations and final arrest. From 2021 to late 2024, law enforcement waged a sustained multi-phase campaign to dismantle the Comanchero gang's grip in New Zealand. The investigation unfolded in 4 major operations: Avon, Scuba, Embargo, and Bridle, each chipping away at a criminal empire with precision. Operation Scuba, the opening salvo, targeted the gang's financial backbone. Investigators uncovered money laundering schemes that funneled ill-gotten gains into property, vehicles, and other assets. In this phase alone, authorities froze over $5.8 million worth of assets, including gang-owned real estate, high-end cash, a late-model Range Rover, and 2 Harley-Davidson bikes. More than 10 individuals were charged as a result. The scale of the haul sent a clear message: Comanchero finances were vulnerable and exposed. Meanwhile, Operation Avon hit at the gang's chapters head-on. Police executed dozens of raids across Christchurch, Dunedin, and Auckland, arresting every patched member of the Christchurch chapter. The operation also disrupted their routine drug and cash runs between cities, seizing meth, firearms, patches, and more, alongside nearly $2 million in restrained assets. Operation Embargo, the next phase, uncovered an internal commission system. Gang members had allegedly been forced to pay thousands per kilogram of drug sales. Those funds were then funneled into military-style training, financed property purchases, and guns. Investigators even suspected the group had hired a trainer from overseas to drill around 15 members. The final phase, Operation Bridle, linked directly back to the high-profile Port of Tauranga meth bust. It drew a straight line from the violent port heist in December to senior gang figures, implicating them in organized transnational drug importation. When it was all tallied, investigators had filed a staggering 137 criminal charges. Those targeted ranged from office holders to patched members and prospects, effectively dismantling the gang's administrative core. The collective impact surpassed anything seen in New Zealand since earlier anti-gang efforts. Then came April 9th, 2025, the culmination. In the quiet Auckland suburb of Hawick, police moved in on one final figure, the Comanchero's national vice president, the last senior leader not yet facing charges. At 36 years old, he was arrested for his alleged role in organizing the meth import through Tauranga, as well as coordinating a separate cocaine import earlier in the year. His arrest marked the end of the long-running enforcement campaign, a full sweep of the gang's leadership. In one decisive moment, nearly all top-tier members were under legal fire. The charges he faces are as serious as they sound. He's accused of importing methamphetamine, attempted cocaine possession for supply, and participating in an organized criminal group. These aren't minor infractions. They reflect sophisticated cross-border operations and a long-standing role at the center of criminal enterprise. Policing officials hailed this arrest as a turning point. With every leader now charged, investigators believe they've significantly disrupted the gang's ability to operate. No more strategic planning, no more scheduled smuggling, no more centralized command. Throughout those 5 minutes, the viewer's journey unfolds like a thriller, from the uncovering of financial schemes, to the breakdown of chapter control, to the revelations of internal funding structures, and finally, the dramatic arrest of the top lieutenant, all while cohesively avoiding repetition of earlier facts. Transnational dimensions. The arrest of the Comanchero vice president wasn't just a local takedown. It opened the door to a global story, a story of international drug routes, encrypted communications, and transnational crime networks working like corporations. Authorities say this high-ranking gang figure didn't just operate within New Zealand. He worked with people far beyond the country's borders. From suppliers in South America to contacts in Southeast Asia and Australia, he played a key role in bringing large drug shipments into the country. The ports may have been in New Zealand, but the coordination was global. Shipments were arranged overseas, packaged to avoid detection, and timed with inside help to avoid. This level of coordination shows how deeply organized crime has evolved. These aren't small-time operations. They mirror international businesses, built on contacts, supply chains, and encrypted channels. The Comancheros didn't work alone. They tapped into a much larger web of criminal enterprise. And this is what law enforcement had been tracking for years. To understand the scale, you have to look at what came before. A few years ago, a massive undercover sting shook the criminal world. A joint operation where global police forces introduced a fake encrypted messaging app. Criminals across dozens of countries unknowingly used this app to communicate about drug shipments, arms deals, and even assassinations. Over time, thousands of messages were logged. That sting operation led to hundreds of arrests worldwide, and helped expose the inner workings of multiple gangs, including the Comancheros. Back then, another senior member of the gang was caught up in that international crackdown. His encrypted messages detailed drug movements, cash pickups, and other high-level planning. When investigators raided properties linked to him, they found meth, firearms, and huge stacks of cash. It was proof of just how connected the gang was and how deeply involved they were in international trafficking. The recent arrest in Auckland follows that same thread. Authorities believe the man was involved in a major meth shipment and had a hand in an attempted cocaine import as well. But it's more than just drugs. What stands out is the structure. This wasn't street-level crime. This was logistics, contacts in foreign ports, coordination with shipping companies, knowing which containers to target and when they'd arrive. The man arrested didn't act alone. That's what makes it so serious. He's believed to have been a central node, receiving information, passing instructions, and moving large amounts of drugs without ever touching them himself. That's what defines modern organized crime. It's clean, professional, and it often hides in plain sight. What makes it even more dangerous is the use of technology. Encrypted phones, disappearing messages, burner devices. These tools allow gangs to communicate instantly, securely, and globally. That's how they stay ahead. But operations in recent years have shown that even encrypted apps can be cracked, and when they are, entire networks can collapse overnight. It's also important to understand how the Comancheros operate beyond New Zealand. In Australia, they've been tied to large-scale cocaine and heroin shipments. Some members have been caught trying to import multi-ton quantities. Others have used businesses as fronts, bike shops, gyms, even financial services to wash dirty money. In Southeast Asia, members have reportedly coordinated drug deals and attempted to grow their influence by forming alliances with local traffickers. So this isn't just about one gang member in Auckland. It's about a massive web that stretches across oceans. Each arrest is a piece of a much bigger puzzle, one that reveals how today's gangs use modern tools to do ancient crimes, drug trafficking, money laundering, bribery, all done on a global scale. What the recent arrest shows is that police are catching up. With international cooperation, better intelligence sharing, and sharper tools, law enforcement has begun striking back, and the Comancheros, once considered untouchable in many regions, are now watching their empire unravel one arrest at a time. Impact on organized crime. Landscape. With nearly all top leaders of the Comancheros now facing charges, one thing is clear. Their grip on New Zealand's criminal underworld has cracked significantly. For years, this gang ran a powerful and well-organized network. But takedowns across 4 major operations have struck directly at their leadership, finances, training structures, and distribution chains. The result? The Comancheros' ability to coordinate major criminal acts has been sharply limited. The real question now: Who fills the gap? When a dominant gang falls, others often rise to seize control. There's talk that groups like the Mongrel Mob or Filthy Few might attempt to move in. But the difference today is that law enforcement is more alert and proactive than ever before. Agencies are watching closely, determined to prevent a violent scramble for control. The message from the cops is clear. Attempts to rebuild will be met with swift action. The broader impact goes beyond gang succession fights. It has wider community implications. Fewer shipments, less money flowing into illicit markets, and reduced access to drugs could ease pressures on vulnerable communities. Schools, families, and neighborhoods long affected by meth will breathe a bit easier. If the pipeline stays choked, long-term harm could reduce significantly. Still, challenges remain, particularly at our ports. Criminal organizers have repeatedly shown they know where the weak points lie. Securing cargo, getting insider help, and evading scans are all strategies they've used to slip drugs into the country. Even with recent busts, ports remain a focal point. The need for upgraded scanning tech, more transparency, and rigorous oversight is clearer than ever. Beyond just better equipment, authorities are pushing for deeper safeguards against corruption. When trusted insiders, like baggage handlers or customs staff, are compromised, serious breaches can happen fast. Organizers don't need guns at the gate if they can rely on someone with legitimate access to assist them. New Zealand has long prided itself on institutional integrity, but recent events show that infrastructure zones, like ports, customs, and borders, can be exposed. That's why multi-agency cooperation is vital. Police, customs, border forces, intelligence agencies, and even private operators must work in synced overdrive. Sharing data, training staff, and monitoring risk zones have become top national priorities. So, what does this all mean? For the Comancheros, their hierarchy is in disarray. Their ability to coordinate high-value imports has crumbled, but criminal opportunity still abounds. The fight isn't over. It's shifted into a new phase. Organized crime will look for new openings. It may change tactics, smaller shipments, alternative corridors, or reliance on different alliances. But police now know that disruption can be sustained if they remain vigilant. On balance, this takedown matters. The Comancheros' dismantling sends a powerful signal. It shows that long-term, patient investigations can neutralize deep-rooted criminal groups. It proves that even sophisticated operations can be unpicked if law enforcement adapts and coordinates effectively. In short, the Comancheros are down, but not necessarily out. The battlefield has widened, and the next moves will be just as critical. The question now isn't if crime will adapt, but how prepared we are to stop it. Conclusion and forward. Look, after 3 years of relentless investigation, high-stakes surveillance, and precision strikes, the Comanchero motorcycle gang in New Zealand has been stripped of its leadership. A major meth shipment was intercepted. Over 130 criminal charges were filed, and the final senior member, a man once considered untouchable, has now been placed in handcuffs. What began as a quiet probe into suspicious cash flows and encrypted messages evolved into one of the most significant anti-gang crackdowns the country has ever seen. Every piece of the puzzle, drug seizures, financial raids, port surveillance, digital tracking, came together in a sweeping final act. Police didn't just target soldiers on the street, they went straight for the strategists, the ones who made the deals, moved the money, and recruited members like a business build staff. And in the end, they took them all down. This kind of victory doesn't come often. It took patience, cooperation between agencies, and the courage to face off against a group with global backing, deep pockets, and a long history of violence. But it happened, and it sent shockwaves through the entire criminal ecosystem. Yet, for every toppling empire, history shows us something else always tries to rise. Gangs don't disappear, they shift, they regroup, they look for the cracks left behind. That's the part law enforcement is preparing for now. What comes next? With the Comancheros out of the spotlight, new contenders might try to step in. Rivals may attempt to claim turf, absorb street dealers, or access the old supply lines. But the game has changed. Police now have a roadmap, a proven system for targeting criminal networks from the top down. This wasn't just a win in a single case. It's a blueprint for the future of organized crime enforcement in New Zealand. It showed that encrypted phones can be cracked, that corrupt insiders can be exposed, that even the most feared organizations can fall when law enforcement thinks bigger, works smarter, and acts in sync. So here we are, one gang dismantled, one major operation complete. But the bigger war against organized crime is far from over. February 27th, 2025, Brisbane Magistrates Court. A 44-year-old Cleveland man faced the most serious charges of his life: drug trafficking and recruiting people into one of Australia's most dangerous criminal organizations. Task Force Maxima had built what they believed was an airtight case: phone intercepts, surveillance footage, and evidence linking him to the Comancheros' desperate attempt to rebuild their shattered empire through a new street gang called the 50 Street Crew. Yet somehow, despite facing conspiracy charges that could send him to prison for decades, this alleged recruiter managed to walk free on bail. This is the story of how one man at the center of Queensland's largest gang recruitment investigation convinced a magistrate he wasn't a danger to the community, and why that decision sent shockwaves through law enforcement. The Cleveland Connection. Cleveland, a quiet bayside suburb east of Brisbane, seemed like an unlikely place to find the operational heart of a criminal conspiracy. Tree-lined streets, family homes, and weekend boaters created the perfect cover for what Task Force Maxima would later describe as a sophisticated recruitment operation. The 44-year-old Cleveland resident had lived in the area for years, maintaining the facade of suburban respectability, while allegedly serving as a crucial link between the Comancheros' old guard and a new generation of potential criminals. To his neighbors, he was just another middle-aged man going about his daily business. They had no idea that their quiet street had become ground zero for one of the most significant organized crime investigations in Queensland's history. But Task Force Maxima had been watching. For months, they had tracked his movements, recorded his phone calls, and documented his meetings with known associates of the Comanchero motorcycle club. The intelligence picture that emerged was deeply troubling. This wasn't just a low-level drug dealer or petty criminal. This was someone who appeared to be playing a central role in the Comancheros' strategic attempt to rebuild their organization using an entirely new model. Operation Whiskey Rebound, launched in September 2024, had identified him as one of 3 key figures involved in recruiting people to become participants in a criminal organization. But unlike traditional motorcycle gang recruitment, this operation was something law enforcement had never seen before. The Comancheros had learned harsh lessons from years of police pressure. Their traditional approach, visible patches, public clubhouses, obvious gang affiliations, had made them easy targets for law enforcement. The new strategy was different, more subtle, and potentially more dangerous. Intelligence reports suggested the Cleveland man was helping to establish the 50 Street Crew, a hybrid organization that would maintain the Comancheros' criminal networks while operating with the anonymity and flexibility of a street gang. This wasn't just recruitment, it was the evolution of organized crime in Australia, and the 44-year-old Cleveland man was allegedly at the center of it all. But proving his role in court would be more challenging than Task Force Maxima anticipated. The very subtlety that made the new recruitment model so dangerous also made it difficult to prosecute under traditional criminal conspiracy laws. Operation Whiskey, rebound targets. The investigation that would ultimately put the Cleveland man in the dock began with disturbing intelligence reports reaching Task Force Maxima in September 2024. Former Comanchero members were meeting regularly with young men who had no obvious connection to motorcycle gangs. Acting Superintendent Bowman would later reveal the chilling scope of what they discovered. We gained intelligence that both current and former Comanchero members had been actively recruiting members for a newly formed street gang known as the 50 Street Crew. The Cleveland man's role in this conspiracy became apparent through months of painstaking surveillance and intelligence gathering. Phone intercepts revealed conversations about bringing people in and building something new. Surveillance showed him meeting with known Comanchero associates and potential recruits in locations across southeast Queensland. What made this recruitment strategy particularly sophisticated was its integration with legitimate activities. Meetings took place in gyms, cafes, and business premises. Conversations were coded and ambiguous. Potential recruits weren't given patches or forced through traditional initiation processes. Instead, they were gradually introduced to criminal opportunities and given increasing responsibilities as they proved their trustworthiness. Drug trafficking was the entry point, but the ultimate goal was building a network that could handle everything from weapons smuggling to serious violent crimes. The Cleveland man's alleged role was crucial because of his connections to both the old Comanchero hierarchy and the new generation of criminals being recruited. Intelligence suggested he was serving as a bridge between these two worlds, helping to maintain continuity while adapting to new operational methods. By late 2024, Task Force Maxima had identified him as one of the primary targets of Operation Whiskey Rebound. They believed he was not just participating in the recruitment conspiracy, but helping to design and implement it. The evidence against him was building through multiple investigative techniques. Phone intercepts captured conversations about recruitment activities. Surveillance documented meetings with known associates. Financial records suggested income from criminal activities that exceeded his legitimate earnings. But the Cleveland man was careful. Like others involved in the conspiracy, he had learned to operate in the gray areas between legitimate and criminal activity. Many of his actions could potentially be explained as innocent business meetings or social interactions. This ambiguity would become crucial when his case reached the courts. While Task Force Maxima was convinced they had evidence of serious criminal conspiracy, proving it to the satisfaction of a magistrate would be a different challenge entirely. The February 6th and 7th raids across southeast Queensland were designed to gather the final pieces of evidence needed to secure convictions. 15 people were arrested, but the Cleveland man's case would become the most contentious. Charged with drug trafficking and recruiting persons to become participants in a criminal organization, he faced decades in prison if convicted. But first, he would have to convince a magistrate that he deserved to remain free on bail while awaiting trial. The February raids. February 6th, 2025, 6 a.m. The Cleveland man was awakened by the sound of tactical officers breaching his front door. Operation Whiskey Rebound had reached its climax, and there would be no warning, no opportunity to destroy evidence, no chance to flee. Task Force Maxima had coordinated simultaneous raids across 12 locations in southeast Queensland. From Brisbane to the Gold Coast, from Caboolture to Maryborough, officers were executing search warrants designed to dismantle the recruitment conspiracy once and for all. At the Cleveland property, investigators knew exactly what they were looking for. Months of surveillance had identified this location as a crucial node in the recruitment network. Phone intercepts had captured conversations originating from this address about bringing new members into the organization. As officers searched through the house, they documented everything that could potentially link the resident to the conspiracy charges. Mobile phones contained contact lists with known criminals. Financial documents suggested income sources that didn't match declared earnings. Meeting schedules aligned with surveillance observations of suspected recruitment activities. But the evidence was subtle and sophisticated. Unlike traditional drug raids that might uncover obvious contraband, this investigation required careful analysis of communications, financial records, and behavioral patterns to build a case. The Cleveland man was arrested and charged with 2 serious offenses: drug trafficking and recruiting persons to become participants in a criminal organization. The first charge carried potential penalties of up to 25 years imprisonment. The second was equally serious, reflecting the growing recognition that recruitment activities were a fundamental threat to community safety. Across the other raid locations, the scope of the conspiracy became apparent. At a suspected safe house in Dara, officers discovered a kilogram of cocaine, 85 grams of methamphetamine, a cannabis grow house, 1 revolver, and 2 kilograms of processed cannabis. A 45-year-old Upper Caboolture man was found to be connected to even more serious crimes, including grievous bodily harm, deprivation of liberty, and torture. His case would demonstrate the violent potential of the organization the Cleveland man was allegedly helping to build. In total, 15 people were arrested and charged with 54 offenses. The operation had successfully disrupted the recruitment conspiracy. But keeping the arrested individuals in custody would require convincing magistrates that they posed ongoing risks to community safety. For the Cleveland man, this challenge would prove more difficult than investigators anticipated. His role in the conspiracy, while significant, was primarily organizational rather than violent. He had no recent history of serious crimes and had previously appeared for all court hearings when required. As he was processed through the watch house and prepared for his initial court appearance, the Cleveland man's lawyers were already planning their bail application strategy. They would argue that their client was a minor player who had been caught up in a larger investigation, rather than a key organizer who posed a continuing threat. The battle for his freedom would be fought not with weapons or violence, but with legal arguments about evidence, risk assessment, and the presumption of innocence that formed the foundation of Australia's justice system. The bail hearing. February 27, 2025. Brisbane Magistrates Court was buzzing with activity as the Cleveland man's bail application was called before the magistrate. In the public gallery, journalists and family members waited to see whether one of the key figures in Queensland's largest gang recruitment investigation would walk free. The prosecution's case against bail was built around the seriousness of the charges and the alleged ongoing nature of the criminal enterprise. Detective Inspector Craig Bowman from the Organised Crime Gangs Group had described the recruitment conspiracy as an active threat to community safety. Prosecutor Sarah Mitchell outlined the evidence against the Cleveland man, phone intercepts showing discussions about recruitment activities, surveillance footage documenting meetings with known criminals, and financial records suggesting income from illegal sources. This is not a case of someone who committed isolated criminal acts, Mitchell argued. The defendant is alleged to have been instrumental in building a criminal network designed to operate indefinitely. Releasing him on bail would allow him to continue these activities and potentially intimidate witnesses. The prosecution emphasized the sophisticated nature of the recruitment conspiracy. Unlike traditional criminal organizations that could be disrupted by arresting key leaders, the 50 Street Crew model was designed to be resilient and adaptive. The very charges he faces, recruiting persons to become participants in a criminal organization, demonstrate that his alleged criminal activity is ongoing by nature, the prosecutor continued. Every day he remains free is another opportunity to bring new criminals into the organization. But defense barrister James Anderson had a different story to tell. His client, he argued, was a minor player who had been caught up in a larger investigation through circumstantial associations rather than serious criminal activity. The prosecution's case relies heavily on ambiguous phone conversations and guilt by association, Anderson argued. My client has no recent history of violence, has appeared for all previous court hearings, and poses no flight risk to the community. Anderson challenged the interpretation of the phone intercepts that formed the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. Conversations about bringing people in could refer to legitimate employment opportunities. Meetings with various individuals could be social or business-related rather than criminal. The recruitment charges are novel and untested in higher courts, he continued. The prosecution is asking this court to detain my client based on speculation about activities that may have innocent explanations. The magistrate, Helen Thompson, faced a difficult decision. The charges were serious and carried significant penalties. The evidence suggested involvement in organized criminal activity. But the case was built largely on circumstantial evidence and communications that could potentially be interpreted in multiple ways. Magistrate Thompson questioned both sides about the strength of the evidence and the conditions that might adequately manage any risk posed by releasing the defendant on bail. The prosecution argued that no conditions could adequately address the risk, given the alleged nature of the recruitment activities. How could police monitor compliance with conditions when the criminal activity allegedly consisted of having conversations and meetings with other people? The defense proposed strict reporting conditions, restrictions on contact with known associates, and electronic monitoring if necessary. They argued that these measures could adequately manage any theoretical risk while preserving their client's right to liberty while awaiting trial. After considering the arguments for over an hour, Magistrate Thompson announced her decision. The Cleveland man would be granted bail, subject to strict conditions including daily reporting to police, surrender of his passport, and prohibition on contact with any known Comanchero members or associates. The decision sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Family members embraced the Cleveland man as he was released. Prosecutors looked stunned. Journalists rushed to file their reports about the surprising outcome. Aftermath and implications. The Cleveland man's successful bail application exposed fundamental challenges in prosecuting modern organized crime cases. Traditional approaches that had been effective against older generations of criminal organizations were proving inadequate for dealing with groups that had learned to adapt and evolve. Task Force Maxima's investigation had uncovered a sophisticated recruitment conspiracy that posed genuine threats to community safety. But Translating that intelligence into successful prosecutions required evidence that met legal standards designed for different types of criminal activity. The recruitment charges themselves were relatively novel in Australian law. While the offense of recruiting persons to become participants in a criminal organization had been used successfully in some cases, it remained challenging to prove when the alleged activities were subtle and ambiguous. For law enforcement, the bail decision represented a significant setback. After months of investigation and evidence gathering, one of their key targets was free to potentially continue his activities while awaiting trial. Acting Superintendent Bowman's public response was diplomatically worded. This operation interfered with these efforts early and have effectively disrupted the gang's activities regarding drug trafficking across the southeast. But privately, investigators were concerned about the precedent the decision might set. The strict bail conditions imposed on the Cleveland man were designed to address these concerns. Daily police reporting would ensure ongoing monitoring of his activities. Contact restrictions would prevent him from meeting with known associates. The surrender of his passport addressed any flight risk. But enforcing these conditions would require significant resources. Police would need to monitor compliance while also continuing their broader investigation into the recruitment conspiracy. For the broader criminal justice system, the case highlighted the challenges of balancing individual rights with community protection in an era of evolving criminal threats. The Comancheros' adaptation to law enforcement pressure represented a new phase in the ongoing battle between organized crime and the justice system. Traditional approaches that relied on obvious criminal markers were becoming less effective against groups that had learned to operate in legal gray areas. Defense lawyers across Queensland were already studying the Cleveland case as a potential template for future bail applications involving recruitment and conspiracy charges. The bail decision also raised questions about whether existing laws and procedures were adequate for dealing with the evolving nature of organized crime recruitment. The broader conspiracy. While the Cleveland man celebrated his freedom, the broader recruitment conspiracy he was allegedly involved in continued to concern law enforcement across Australia. The 50 Street Crew model represented more than just a Queensland phenomenon. It was part of a nationwide adaptation by organized crime groups. Intelligence reports suggested that similar recruitment strategies were being employed by former gang members in other states, indicating a coordinated effort to rebuild criminal networks using new methodologies. The success of the bail application demonstrated one of the key advantages of this new approach. Without obvious gang markers like patches or clubhouse affiliations, it became much harder for prosecutors to argue that individuals posed ongoing risks to community safety. Task Force Maxima's investigation had revealed the sophisticated nature of the recruitment process. Potential members weren't approached randomly. They were carefully selected based on their criminal history, financial needs, and psychological suitability for criminal activity. The Cleveland man's alleged role in this process was crucial because of his ability to bridge different criminal networks. His connections to both traditional Comanchero members and the new generation of potential recruits made him valuable to the organization's adaptation efforts. But his release on bail meant that these connections remained intact. Despite the conditions imposed by the magistrate, experienced criminals often find ways to maintain their networks while technically complying with legal restrictions. The broader implications of the recruitment conspiracy extended beyond Queensland's borders. The 50 Street Crew model, if successful, could be replicated by organized crime groups across Australia and internationally. For communities across the region, the recruitment activities represented a direct threat to public safety. Young people being drawn into criminal organizations would eventually be involved in drug trafficking, violence, and other serious crimes. The Cleveland case became a test case for how effectively the justice system could respond to these evolving threats while maintaining the principles of individual liberty and due process that formed the foundation of Australian democracy. Justice system challenges. As the Cleveland man left Brisbane Magistrates Court on February 27, 2025, his successful bail application became a symbol of the complex challenges facing Australia's justice systems in the 21st century. His case exposed the tensions between law enforcement's need to prevent ongoing criminal activity and the legal system's commitment to individual rights and the presumption of innocence.
Did you know Australia has more bikers per person than anywhere else in the world? Mick Howie was once a powerful leader among them, running one of the country's most feared biker gangs. He was close friends with one of Australia's richest and most wanted criminals. However, everything changed one day at the airport when he unexpectedly ran into a major rival. The fight that followed marked a turning point in his life. This is the story of one of Australia's most infamous biker bosses, Mahmoud Mick. Howie was born on May 29, 1980, in Beirut, Lebanon. At the age of 5, Mick and his family escaped the turmoil in Lebanon, finding a new home in Sydney, Australia. Growing up, Mick experienced a modest childhood. By 15, he had met his future wife, Colina Gonzalez, and the couple would go on to marry in 2002 and have 2 children together. At 18, Mick joined the Comancheros, an infamous outlaw motorcycle club founded in 1968 by William "Jock" Ross. The club was a gathering point for many men of Middle Eastern descent seeking camaraderie. Jock Ross, a strict and authoritative leader, had controlled the Comancheros for decades. However, in 2002, his leadership came to a dramatic end when Mick, then just 22, and a group of younger members confronted Ross at his home. In a bold move, they beat him, stripped him of his club colors, and even took his Harley-Davidson, signaling a new era under Mick's rule. From that key moment, Mick Howie became the new boss of the Comancheros, rising to the top as the national president and supreme commander. Despite his high-profile status, Mick's criminal record was surprisingly light, with just a few driving tickets, an offensive language charge, and a small drug possession incident in 2005. Compared to other bikers, he seemed relatively clean. Nevertheless, Mick was gaining a notorious reputation in Sydney's criminal underworld. He and his fellow Comancheros were deeply involved in illegal activities such as drug smuggling, money laundering, and extortion, all to make money. In 2007, Mick's life of crime nearly caught up with him when his car was sprayed with bullets in a shooting, vividly illustrating the perils of his lifestyle. Mick Howie once mentioned that a bullet hit the headrest of his car, missing his head by just a few inches. After this close call, which likely stemmed from rising tensions between biker gangs, Mick decided to use more security and started traveling in an armored car. Despite these precautions, the situation escalated a year later. On a normal afternoon at Sydney Airport on March 22, 2009, unsuspecting travelers were going about their day, unaware that the airport was about to become a battleground. By pure chance, 5 Comancheros found themselves on the same flight as Derek Weo, the leader of the rival Hells Angels, setting the stage for a major confrontation. While on the plane, both the Comancheros and the Hells Angels reportedly called for backup to meet them at the airport. Once everyone arrived, the situation quickly got out of hand. In the terminal, at least 10 men from both sides started fighting fiercely, and airport security couldn't stop them. They grabbed the heavy metal posts that are used to organize lines, each weighing about 17 kilos, and used them as weapons. During the chaos, a member of the Hells Angels named Anthony Ziris was severely beaten with these posts after falling to the ground. Tragically, he did not survive the attack. Eventually, the fighting stopped, and both groups hurriedly left the scene. As Mick Howie was leaving the airport, he was heard shouting threats towards Peter Zervas, the brother of Anthony, warning him of more violence to come. After the airport fight, while some were arrested, Mick Howie managed to escape by catching a taxi and stayed off the radar for a while. This brutal brawl drastically changed how Australia viewed biker gangs. It led to the creation of Strikeforce Raptor, a police unit specifically aimed at tackling serious and organized crime within outlaw motorcycle gangs and similar groups. Mick disappeared after the brawl and was on the run until his lawyer announced that Mick would cooperate with the police. He turned himself in and was eventually convicted for the murder of Hells Angels member Anthony Zervas. Mick received a sentence of up to 28 years in prison, with at least 21 years to be served before he could be eligible for parole. Some say Mick took most of the blame to protect his fellow Comancheros, which earned him a great deal of respect within his group. In 2014, a twist in Mick Howie's legal saga occurred when the NS Court of Criminal Appeal overturned his murder conviction. He was allowed to plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter instead. As a result, Mick was handed a sentence of just over 6 years, with a minimum of 3.5 years before parole. By 2015, considering the time he had already served, Mick was released from prison. His freedom came with 22 strict conditions, including a ban from rejoining the Comancheros or any other outlaw motorcycle gang. These conditions effectively prevented Mick from returning to his former life of crime. He began living quietly with his family, staying under the radar. Despite keeping a low profile and no longer being the Comancheros' president, Mick was aware that he still had many enemies. In Sydney, Mick Howie usually moved around with a security team or in an armored car for protection. However, on February 15, 2018, he had neither. That day, Mick went to Fitness First Gym in Rockdale, a place known as a frequent hangout for Comancheros members. In fact, back in December 2008, Comancheros members had been involved in a huge fight there with a rival biker gang, using gym benches as weapons and pulling out pins from machines to use as makeshift knuckle dusters, as the then manager recalled. After finishing his workout on that fateful day, Mick walked back to his car, which he had boldly parked right in front of the gym, not in a designated parking spot. No one dared to challenge him on where he parked. Staff at the gym noted there was nothing they could do about it. Just as Mick closed his car door, a few seconds later, an assailant rushed up to his driver's side window, pulled out a gun, and fired at least 6 shots at close range. Despite being shot from close range, Mick Howie initially survived the attack. He was quickly taken to St. George Hospital in critical condition, but eventually passed away from his injuries. The shooter made a quick getaway back to a gray Mercedes that sped away and was later found abandoned and burned out. Security camera footage captured the suspects fleeing through a neighborhood and switching to a Toyota. Beyond the torched car, there were no immediate clues to their whereabouts. The police responded rapidly, deploying a helicopter to survey the crime scene area. Assistant Commissioner Mal Lanen stated that the New South Wales Police were using all available resources to tackle what he predicted would be a challenging investigation. Although it's too soon to pinpoint a motive, Mick Howie's past involvement in organized crime is being closely examined. The police are also focusing on preventing any potential retaliation following this incident. Just like that, the once dreaded president of the Comancheros had his life brutally taken. At Mick's funeral, many people came to show their support, and immediately questions started swirling. Who was the shooter? And perhaps even more crucially, who could have ordered such a hit? The police took the case very seriously, especially considering the historical context of the airport brawl that resulted in the death of Hells Angels member Anthony Zervas. In a related development, Anthony's mother, Frederica Bromwich, gave a particularly interesting interview. Just 2 days after Mick Howie's death, Frederica Bromwich, mother of Anthony Zervas, who died in a brawl involving Mick, expressed no sympathy in an interview. She called Mick's death karma, suggesting that actions in life come back to haunt you. "He deserved it, but my son didn't," she said, indicating relief that Mick was gone. Her remarks, especially her approval of the attackers, prompted mixed reactions from the public. While some understood Frederica Bromwich's lack of sympathy, others pointed out that her own sons had troubled histories. Speculation about the motive behind Mick Howie's murder ran rampant. As a former president of the Comancheros, Mick had made numerous enemies. Was it a rival biker gang, or perhaps allies of the Hells Angels and Anthony Zervas seeking revenge. Another intriguing possibility was that the attack came from within his own gang. After Mick's arrest and subsequent imprisonment, the leadership of the Comancheros was left in limbo until Mark Boole stepped in as the new president. No one expected Mick to return so soon, adding another layer of complexity to the theories swirling around his sudden demise. When Mick Howie returned from prison, there were rumors he wanted to reclaim his leadership role and power within the Comancheros, but Mark Boole, the current president, wasn't willing to step aside. This tension reportedly led to a significant conflict between them, noted by the Daily Telegraph just weeks before the shooting. Assistant Commissioner Mal Lonan commented that while Mark Boole was one person of interest among many, given Mick's numerous enemies, Boole had never been formally accused or charged in relation to the hit. In August 2018, NSSW police arrested 4 suspects for the shooting. The main suspect, lone wolf biker Yusuf Nazlioglu, was suspected of being the gunman. Alongside him, Ahmad Duda was arrested for allegedly aiding in disposing of the getaway car. Jamal El Jai, the suspected getaway driver, and Mustafa Salami, accused of helping move the cars used in the attack, were arrested later. None of the men admitted guilt, and a lengthy trial followed. During the trial, it was revealed that Yusuf had become friends with Mick after his 2015 release from prison, but their relationship soured 2 years later. Mick's wife testified that Yusuf had embarrassed Mick during a fishing trip, leading Mick to end their friendship, which infuriated Yusuf. Despite significant evidence, including a balaclava in the getaway car with Yusuf's DNA, the court found it insufficient and acquitted Yusuf and Jamal of their charges in December 2020. Ahmed accepted a plea deal. Fast forward to June 27, 2022, Yusuf was attacked in a similar fashion. He was shot several times just as he was parking his car at home. After the shooting, the police quickly arrived at the scene, but the shooter had already escaped in a silver car, which was later found abandoned and burned out. Yusuf was treated at the scene by paramedics and rushed to Westmead Hospital, where he ultimately passed away due to his injuries. Many initially speculated that this attack might be linked to Mick Howie, especially since it was common knowledge that Yusuf had said he could be targeted at any time due to his numerous enemies. Superintendent Danny Doty noted that Yusuf had conflicts with various groups and was involved in other organized crime activities, so there were multiple possible motives and theories behind his murder. Ultimately, 3 men were charged in connection with Yusuf's killing, but none of them were connected to Mick Howie. As of 2023, no one has been prosecuted for the attack on Mick.
Before we explore Alex's rise, let's first get a brief understanding of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club. The Comanchero Motorcycle Club was founded in 1966 in Sydney, Australia. It quickly gained notoriety for its rebellious spirit and fierce loyalty among its members. This outlaw motorcycle club, often referred to simply as the Comancheros, was established by William Jopp Ross, a former Scottish military man. Ross instilled a military-like structure and discipline in the club, which helped to grow in both numbers and influence. Over the decades, the Comancheros expanded their reach beyond Australia, establishing chapters in various parts of the world, including New Zealand, Spain, and other European countries. This international presence strengthened the club's power and allowed it to become a formidable force in the global biker community. The club's distinctive black and yellow colors and the emblem of a winged skull became symbols of its widespread influence and fearsome reputation. Several leaders have left their mark on the Comancheros, each contributing to its legacy in different ways. Jopp Ross, the founder, set the foundation, but it was Mark Buddle, one of the most infamous leaders, who significantly expanded the club's international operations. Under Buddle's leadership, the Comancheros became heavily involved in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking and organized crime, further solidifying their status as a dominant force in the outlaw biker world. Today, the Comancheros continue to wield significant influence, both in Australia and internationally, with their new world commander, Alex Varela, stepping into the spotlight. The club's storied history and global reach make it a fascinating subject in the realm of outlaw motorcycle clubs. Alex Varela's rise to power within the Comanchero Motorcycle Club is a tale of ambition and strategic maneuvering. Relatively unknown until recently, he has now emerged as a central figure in the global biker community. His initial involvement with the Comancheros began years ago, when he first connected with key members of the club. Varela's journey within the Comancheros was marked by his consistent presence at significant events and his close ties with influential figures. Photos from 2016 show Varela alongside the notorious Mark Buddle, the former world commander, and other prominent members at a resort, indicating his deep-rooted connections within the club. This early association with Buddle and other leaders set the stage for his future ascent. Key moments in Varela's rise include his active participation in international Comanchero gatherings, such as the 2019 bikie event in Guadalajara, Spain. Here he was seen with Alan Meehan, the ex-president of Comancheros Australia, underscoring his growing influence and recognition within the club. These interactions and his presence at major club events were crucial milestones that paved the way for his leadership role. Compared to Mark Buddle, who was known for his aggressive expansion and criminal enterprises, Varela's approach appears more measured but equally impactful. While Buddle's tenure was marked by significant legal troubles and his eventual arrest, Varela has managed to navigate these challenges and rise to the top. His leadership marks a new era for the Comancheros as he takes over the reins of the club's global operations. Alex Varela's leadership as the world commander of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club is characterized by a strategic and commanding presence. As the new world commander, he is responsible for overseeing the club's global operations, maintaining its influence, and managing its numerous chapters spread across various countries. His role involves coordinating activities, ensuring loyalty among members, and expanding the club's reach. Varela's leadership style appears to be a blend of calculated diplomacy and firm control. Unlike his predecessor, Mark Buddle, who was known for his aggressive tactics, Varela's approach seems more strategic, focusing on strengthening alliances and consolidating power. Has maintained a strong presence on social media, often sharing images of himself at significant events, and always wearing the prestigious World Commander badge on his black and yellow leather vest. These public appearances serve to reinforce his authority and connect with the club's global membership. Varela's connections with other prominent bikies further bolstered his leadership. He has been photographed with influential figures like Alan Meehan, the former Australian president of the Comancheros, showcasing his deep ties within the biker community. His ability to navigate these relationships and maintain strong alliances is a testament to his leadership skills. Under Varela's command, the Comancheros are poised to continue their operations with a renewed sense of purpose and direction. His leadership marks a new chapter for the club, one that is watched closely by both law enforcement and rival clubs. Law enforcement has been cracking down hard on the Comanchero Motorcycle Club, with Spanish authorities launching a series of high-profile raids. These raids targeted properties linked to the Comancheros, resulting in significant seizures and arrests. The Guardia Civil and the National Police Corps played a major role in these operations, uncovering a treasure trove of illegal items. During the raids, authorities seized a wide array of firearms, bladed weapons, and narcotics. The collection included everything from handguns and crossbows to knives and tasers. Alongside these weapons, police also found illegal neo-Nazi paraphernalia, computer equipment, and numerous items bearing the Comanchero emblem, such as vests, hoodies, and helmets. The sheer volume of seized items left even seasoned officers astounded. These operations were not conducted in isolation. Spanish authorities worked closely with international intelligence agencies, including those from Australia. This collaboration was crucial in gathering the necessary information to carry out the raids. Investigations revealed that between October 2019 and March 2021, Comanchero members were involved in smuggling large quantities of cannabis into Europe, hidden in the steel frames of truck trailers. A notable bust occurred at the French border, where 150 kilograms of marijuana were intercepted, leading to the arrest of 2 members now imprisoned in France. Another major operation involved the shipment of methamphetamine to Australia, concealed in construction materials. This effort resulted in the seizure of 3 kilograms of methamphetamine at customs, further highlighting the club's extensive criminal network. The continuous efforts of law enforcement are aimed at dismantling these illegal operations and curbing the influence of the Comancheros. One of the key events that highlights the club's global reach is the anniversary party held in Spain. This celebration saw bikies from all over Europe converge to honor the Comancheros' presence in Spain. Special guests from Australia, including high-ranking members, also attended, showcasing the strong ties between the international chapters. The event was a testament to the club's unity and its ability to bring together members from diverse regions under a common banner. The Comancheros have also formed strategic alliances with other motorcycle clubs to bolster their power and influence. One notable alliance is with the notorious LSNC Salamanca, a prominent club in Spain. These partnerships are crucial for maintaining the club's strength and operational capabilities across borders. Members from Germany, Spain, various parts of Europe, and even New Zealand have been seen collaborating and participating in events, further solidifying these alliances. These global connections enable the Comancheros to orchestrate large-scale operations, such as the international drug shipments uncovered by law enforcement. The seamless coordination between different chapters and allied clubs allows them to execute complex schemes and evade detection, although law enforcement agencies are continuously working to disrupt these activities. Alex Varela's leadership has a profound impact on the global criminal underworld. As the new world commander of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club, Varela's strategic approach and deep connections have bolstered the club's operations, making it a formidable entity. His ability to maintain and expand the club's international alliances ensures that the Comancheros remain a significant force in various illegal activities, from drug trafficking to organized crime. Law enforcement agencies face immense challenges in tackling Comanchero activities. The club's sophisticated network and Varela's adept leadership make it difficult to dismantle their operations. Coordinated raids and international collaborations have yielded some success. The club's resilience and ability to adapt continue to pose serious hurdles. Looking ahead, Varela's leadership could mean further consolidation of power and potentially more covert operations, complicating efforts to curb their influence. However, increased international cooperation among law enforcement agencies and advancements in surveillance technology may level the playing field. The ongoing battle between the Comancheros and global law enforcement will likely intensify, with significant implications for the future of organized crime. What new twists will emerge in the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs? To find out, make sure to check out our other videos on similar topics. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for Varela as the new leader? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Imagine controlling a criminal empire from thousands of miles away. Mark Buttle, a man from humble beginnings, commands Australia's most notorious biker gang, the Comancheros, across continents. Let's unravel the secrets of his remote rule and the high-stakes world of international organized crime. The rise of Mark Buttle. Mark Buttle's rise from the gritty streets of Maroubra, a neighborhood shadowed by the sprawling housing commission, to the notorious leader of the Comancheros, is a tale that echoes the classic anti-hero storyline. Born into a world where opportunities were scarce, Buttle's path seemed predetermined by his tough surroundings. But it wasn't long before he carved a different path, one that led him deep into the underbelly of Sydney's criminal world. The Comancheros themselves have a storied past, founded in 1966 as a brotherhood for those passionate about motorcycles, freedom, and camaraderie. Under the guise of loyalty and brotherhood, the Comancheros evolved into a formidable organized crime syndicate, dealing in drugs, arms, and fear. As the gang's activities expanded, so too did their reputation, setting the stage for a leader like Buttle to emerge. Buttle's ascension within the Comancheros wasn't merely through brute force, it was his cunning and strategic mindset that set him apart. Key events, such as the orchestrated takeovers of rival gangs and the ruthless enforcement of the Comancheros' territories, showcased his leadership qualities and solidified his reputation. His ruthless approach to dealing with enemies and his keen sense for opportunity cemented his position at the top. Buttle didn't just rise to power, he reshaped the power dynamics within Australia's criminal underworld, the structure of power. The Comancheros, like many notorious biker gangs, aren't just a ragtag group of lawless riders. They are a meticulously organized syndicate. At the top of this complex web sits the commander, a role currently held by Mark Buttle, whose influence and decisions ripple through the gang and beyond. The structure of the Comancheros is hierarchical, beginning with the commander, followed by vice presidents, sergeants-at-arms, treasurers, and road captains, down to the prospects who aspire to full membership. Each level has distinct roles and responsibilities, ensuring operations run as smoothly as any major enterprise. Road captains coordinate logistics and rides, while treasurers manage the gang's substantial finances derived from various illicit activities. As commander, Buttle wields enormous power, directing the gang's strategic vision and major decisions. His role involves not only overseeing criminal enterprises, but also maintaining order and loyalty within the ranks. He negotiates alliances, directs major operations, handles severe disciplinary actions, and ensures the gang's profitability. His words are final, illustrating the absolute power he holds, a stark contrast to corporate CEOs, who are often accountable to boards and shareholders. This comparison with traditional corporate structures is intriguing. Whereas a CEO might motivate through vision and shareholder value, Buttle's tools are fear, loyalty, and the promise of riches. Though both types of leaders wield significant power, the stakes within the underworld are brutally higher, involving life and death decisions. In Buttle's world, leadership isn't about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about absolute control and survival in Australia's criminal hierarchy. Criminal enterprises. The criminal enterprises of the Comancheros are vast and varied, forming a dark web that stretches far beyond Australian borders. At the core of their empire stands drug trafficking, a lucrative venture that has emboldened them to establish sophisticated networks for the distribution of narcotics. Extortion and protection rackets also line their pockets, ensnaring businesses and individuals into a cycle of fear and dependency. Mark Buttle, as the Supreme Commander, has not only sustained but expanded these operations, giving the Comancheros a notorious international footprint. By leveraging advanced communication technologies and utilizing a network of loyal expatriates, Buttle orchestrates a global criminal operation from his remote hideouts. These international links enable the gang to smuggle drugs across continents, launder money through offshore accounts, and enforce their rule even from afar. A stark illustration of the gang's ruthless tactics was the infamous murder of a security guard in the heart of Sydney, an event that shook the public and law enforcement alike. This was no random act of violence, but a calculated move by the Comancheros to assert dominance and instill fear. The guard, caught in a dispute that escalated tragically, became yet another victim of the gang's aggressive expansion strategy. His death highlighted the dangerous lengths to which Buttle and his lieutenants would go to protect their interests. These criminal activities are not just chapters of a sordid tale, but underscore a chilling reality. Under Buttle's leadership, the Comancheros have evolved from local toughs to a transnational syndicate. This global reach not only complicates law enforcement efforts, but also signifies a perilous shift in how modern criminal empires operate, managing from afar. Mark Buttle's leadership saga took a dramatic turn when he decided to manage the sprawling Comanchero empire from afar, first relocating to Dubai and later to Lebanon. This move did not signify a step back, but rather a strategic repositioning, allowing him to orchestrate operations from a distance with the help of modern technology and a loyal network. To maintain control over his criminal empire across continents, Buttle relied heavily on encrypted communications. These digital tools enabled him to send orders and receive updates securely, ensuring that despite the physical distance, his command remained absolute. Additionally, he appointed trusted lieutenants in strategic locations who acted as his eyes and hands, executing his directives with precision. These local commanders ensured that Buttle's will was implemented, from Sydney's back alleys to the bustling streets of international cities. However, the reliance on encrypted communication became a double-edged sword, during the infamous A&O scandal. In a sophisticated sting operation, law enforcement agencies introduced an encrypted app that was covertly monitored by them, cleverly marketed to the criminal underworld as a safe platform for their communications. The Comancheros, under Buttle's direction, adopted this technology, unwittingly exposing their most secretive dealings to police scrutiny. This led to significant arrests and seizures, delivering a major blow to the gang's operations and demonstrating the risks associated with remote management. Through this ordeal, the challenges of managing a criminal network from afar were laid bare. While technology facilitated a global reach and operational secrecy, it also introduced vulnerabilities that were expertly exploited by law enforcement, proving that even the most cautious strategies have their Achilles heel. Challenges of leadership. Leading a notorious gang like the Comancheros, especially from afar, poses unique challenges even for a leader like Mark Buttle. His tenure has been marked by not just external threats, but internal conflicts and power struggles as well. Ambitious underlings and disgruntled members constantly test his authority, each seeing themselves as potential leaders. These internal rifts threaten the cohesion of the gang, necessitating a careful balance of fear and reward to maintain control. Compounding these internal issues is relentless law enforcement pressure. Agencies across multiple countries coordinate major crackdowns, aiming to dismantle the extensive criminal network Buttle oversees. High-profile raids, arrests, and lengthy court cases disrupt operations and force constant strategic adjustments. Each police operation unravels part of the web Buttle has woven, challenging his ability to lead effectively from a distance. Amid these pressures, public and media perception of Buttle and the Comancheros fluctuates between vilification and begrudging fascination. Media outlets dissect his every move, painting him as a criminal mastermind one moment and a ruthless outlaw the next. This spotlight adds another layer of complexity to his leadership, influencing public opinion and thereby coloring the political and social landscape in which the gang operates. These layers of challenges underscore the precariousness of Buttle's position. Balancing internal dynamics, evading law enforcement's grasp, and managing public relations requires cunning and adaptability that few can muster. In this high-stakes game, Buttle's leadership is continuously tested, proving that running a criminal empire is about more than just wielding power. It's about outsmarting opponents both within and outside the organization. Future implications. As we gaze into the murky horizon of the Comancheros' future, under Mark Buttle's remote leadership, several potential scenarios emerge, each fraught with its own set of consequences and opportunities. Currently, despite significant legal and law enforcement challenges, the Comancheros remain a formidable force in the criminal underworld, with Buttle still at the helm. His strategic acumen and ruthless approach have kept the gang's operations vibrant and profitable. The continuous pressure from international law enforcement could eventually erode the gang's structure, leading to its disintegration. Conversely, the organization might continue its dominance in the criminal world, adapting to and overcoming challenges through innovation in tactics, and perhaps even expanding further into new territories. Another intriguing possibility is the emergence of new leadership. As law enforcement strategies evolve and internal pressures mount, a more locally based leader could rise, potentially shifting the gang's strategies or even its core activities. In closing, the enduring presence of the Comancheros and similar criminal networks continues to cast a long shadow over society. Their activities not only foster a culture of violence and corruption, but also strain judicial systems and law enforcement resources globally. The societal impact is profound, affecting not just direct victims of their crimes, but also influencing economic and policy decisions at national and international levels. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the shadowy world of Mark Buttle and the Comancheros. As we've explored the complex layers of leadership, crime, and international intrigue, it's clear that the impact of such networks stretches far beyond their immediate dealings. What do you think the future holds for organized crime as global law enforcement evolves? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned and stay curious.